For the longest time, I truly believed that the reason why I hadn't managed to stop binge eating was because I wasn't trying hard enough. And this was confirmed to me early on when I first sought help for my binge eating. I went to a CBT therapist, and on the 7th session, after doing everything she had told me to do, all my homework, I was still binging. And when I left that session, as I was walking out of the room, I remember her saying to me, "Sarah, I really want you to try this week." And that flush of shame that went through me, because I believed her. I thought, clearly I'm not trying hard enough. What's wrong with me? But this belief, I guess I thought the kind of people who stopped binge eating were these really driven, ambitious personalities. And I felt messy and chaotic and inconsistent. I'd hear other stories of recovery and hear about people who struggled with binge eating, but they were also really good at dieting when they managed to do it. And I would think, well, that's not even me. I haven't even been successful at dieting, even briefly. And I remember on a couple of occasions at work and with therapists where people would say to me, "Oh, Sarah, you're quite hard on yourself." And that would genuinely take me by surprise because I didn't identify as someone who had a particularly critical voice in my head. If anything, I felt like I had a voice that was always letting me off the hook. But a bit like the frog who's in the pan of water that's slowly heating up and doesn't realize it, I was being pretty hard on myself. And the realization of that started to shift something, because for as long as I thought I'm not being hard on myself, I thought the answer was to keep trying harder. So I wanted to make this video today to just talk about a few things that shifted first before I was able to stop binge eating. If you're anything like me, I thought recovery looks like not binging. When I'm not binging, or when my binging is greatly reducing, I can measure it in my behavior, that's when I know I'm on the recovery path. And actually, there were big fundamental shifts in the way I was thinking and experiencing myself that happened first. So if you, like me, have just been spending years maybe just trying to change your behavior, it might be that there's other things that need to shift first before it's possible to change your behavior around food. So I didn't realize it at the time because it wasn't really how it was being spoken about. But by recognizing how hard I was being on myself and recognizing that maybe I didn't have to be as hard on myself, that was the beginning of self-compassion. I wouldn't have used that term at the time, but it's basically what it was. I started to soften towards myself a bit. I saw myself as someone who was in pain and who was lost, as opposed to somebody who was just gross and just someone who was failing at life. During particularly like the first 6 years or so of my binging struggles, I felt so alone. My life became very small. I would go to work, and work was fine. I quite liked my job, but it didn't give me any sense of great meaning or satisfaction. I think it was good for me to be around people. I liked the people I worked with, but I would come home and shut myself in my room and just binge. And I spent many a lonely evening that way. And so from that place, with my life looking like that, I don't know how I would have been able to have done anything different. So actually, through a series of events, I wasn't looking for a career change at the time at all. But I ended up doing an evening class at the local college on basic counselling skills, and then decided to become a therapist. So the big thing that shifted, because I started training to be a therapist while I was still binging. I didn't think I was going to be the binge eating therapist. I thought I'd just work with general stuff. But what that did for me, like during my training, was it gave me some sense of meaning in my life. Because life had felt pretty meaningless. I was so deep in this struggle, this pain with food. My mother had died. I felt like I was just existing. But that the career change gave me the sense of purpose, and it also, the other thing it really gave me in my training was a sense of connection to others, because I met other people who were interested in just these kinds of conversations, like understanding about what makes us human, what makes us tick, what makes us feel better, what makes us feel worse, how do we understand our patterns? And so I would say that some of the most satisfying friendships I've had in my life have been with other therapists. So this is not me saying to you, go be a therapist, that's what you need to do to stop binge eating. But there was something about the importance of connection, because I was so disconnected. I was completely disconnected from myself. I'd withdrawn from others. I'd withdrawn from the world. And if you've heard me talk about connection before, I talk about the 3 points: connection with self, others, and the world. And some of those might be easier than others for you. But to feel completely disconnected from all three is a really scary place to be. So I guess what I'm offering you to think about here is, what makes your life meaningful? I'm not talking about some kind of grand purpose or changing the world, unless that particularly inspires you. Meaningfulness can just be family, relationships, nature, hobbies, maybe your work, whatever it might be, something that means something to you. Because I'd got to a place where nothing meant anything and I didn't want to exist anymore. And so I couldn't have stopped binging while I was feeling like that. Something had to give, something had to change first there. To try to change binging behavior when everything feels completely meaningless, that is a big task. I couldn't have done it. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know I couldn't have done that. I also, for the longest time, believed that there was something just fundamentally broken about me. Other people could recover and get this behavior under control, but not me. And in 2011, I think it was, I read a book by Joe Dispenza called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And the whole premise behind that, you might be able to tell in the title, is this idea that who we are and even our personalities have basically become habit. So it's this idea of being able to change how you experience yourself. And he does this through a meditation practice, which still influences my meditation practice today. So I learned how to shift my state through these meditation practices. And this was such an important skill to learn, because what I started being able to do was, even on a day when I had binged and before I went to bed, I could do this meditation and find a place of calm and peace. And so being able to find a place of calm and peace and safety outside of, oh, I can feel calm and peaceful because I'm okay with how I've eaten today, was crucial. Being able to create that state before my behavior changed. Because when you're struggling with something like this, you imagine, if I just don't have this problem anymore, then I'll feel okay. And for me, it was actually about figuring out how to, at least some of the time, feel okay, even if I still had this problem in my life. Also, the idea in my head of recovery was weight loss. Like, I thought that was recovery. So because my binging had caused my weight to go up quite considerably and quite rapidly, I thought, well, recovery is bringing my weight down. So much of my recovery focus was on weight. I knew my behavior was a problem, but my weight was kind of the outcome of that. So I saw that as the thing that needed to be fixed. And actually, when the goalpost changed for recovery, and the goal for me then became about, actually, I want to be able to regulate my own appetite. That thought, that notion became so precious to me, and I wanted it so badly. I wanted it more than the weight loss. And it made it so much easier then to make food decisions, because when my food decisions were about wanting to feel balanced and regulated, which included like eating foods just because they taste good sometimes, it included for me an all foods fit approach. That was what enabled me to make peaceful decisions. Whereas before it was always about, is this a good idea, is it not? Is this going to set off a binge? Is this going to, have I eaten too much? Am I going to gain weight? Oh, have I lost a bit of weight? It slowed down that noise when I simplified my goal. And because when your goal is something like regulating your appetite, you can experience that like in a moment. You can't experience weight loss in a moment. Weight loss is some long-term outcome. So you're not getting the reward until further down the line. Whereas if it becomes rewarding to you to be able to feel regulated and balanced and free around food, you could have a rewarding day today or tomorrow. You don't have to wait to feel better or wait to have some feeling of progress, like you're experiencing what recovery is. So it's not to say that I completely let go of all desire to lose weight. I didn't. But I had something that I wanted more. And that was important for me in my recovery. The other thing that I just want to give a nod to is that some of you might know that I have a pituitary tumor, which basically means a lot of my hormones are suppressed. So my thyroid hormone is affected, my estrogen is affected, my growth hormone is affected, and all of these hormones can have a significant impact on appetite as well. So for me, getting those hormones checked, making sure that they're in range, also makes a massive difference, because maybe you're somebody who knows what it's like to really experience that hormonal hunger that can feel bottomless. I mention it because sometimes you could do all the psychological work, but if your hormones are out of whack, then you could find yourself still feeling like you're in that battle with your appetite. So these are just a few thoughts. I let the cat run around. I think she might be messing up my editing continuity. She does not want to be held at the moment. I've just seen she just dropped her toy on my lap. Okay, well, I'm going to end the video here and go and play with my kitten. So thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you on the next video.